What's up guys, CJ here and welcome back to another all-new Star Trek Discovery review, this time for episode 5 titled Choose Your Pain. This episode picks up right where our last one left off, with the tardigrade saga in full swing, kind of building off of the reveal from last episode that the repeated jumps are made possible by the tardigrade, but actually hurt the creature in the process, and believe me, that is the bulk of this episode. But for more, let's get into a quick plot recap. The episode opens with a really bizarre scene as Burnham wakes from a nightmare after seeing herself basically in the tardigrade's shoes. Fearing for the creature's well-being, she consults with the ship's doctor, who sets out to run tests on the creature to determine just what sort of damage the jumps are doing to it. Meanwhile, Lorca meets with members of Starfleet Command, who commend him for what we learn is now multiple successful missions, more than just the one from last episode, but they come back at him with another request. They need more tardigrades and want the ship to slow down so as to not wear out their prime asset until they have more. They're also not crazy about Burnham being on his crew, but that's something that Lorca won't budge on. Things go from bad to worse for him when his shuttle is ambushed by the Klingon, who knew very specifically who he was. He wakes up in a Klingon prison vessel where he meets Harry Mudd, disreputable intergalactic criminal that he is, and another Starfleet prisoner, but they're quickly approached by Klingon guards who tell them to choose their pain. Choosing their pain is an interesting tactic used by the Klingon to basically keep the prisoners from bonding, making them choose themselves or a fellow prisoner to receive torture that could and often does lead to death. During his stay, he befriends another Starfleet prisoner, Lieutenant Tyler, who survived for 7 months since the Battle of the Binary Stars, but before long, Lorca is dragged out by the Klingons for interrogation. As torture, the Klingon captain exposes Lorca to light, demanding to know how the Discovery is able to appear and disappear without a trace, but after surviving, he reveals to Tyler that Mudd was feeding intel to the Klingon. It's here that we get actually more of Lorca's backstory from Mudd, learning that his previous command, the USS Buran, which went down after a Klingon ambush, lost all on board, except for Lorca, who set the ship to self-destruct to save his crew the pain and humiliation of death by the Klingons. Back at the Discovery, Saru has assumed command of the ship and has been ordered to recover their captain. Burnham addresses her concerns about Ripper, the tardigrade, to Saru, who shuts her fears down, worrying that it'll interfere with the larger mission. Undeterred, Burnham approaches Stamets with her concerns about Ripper, now backed by the ship's doctor, who shows that the jumps are causing damage to the tardigrade. However, he unhelpfully notes that this is Burnham's fault, before actually agreeing to help and find a substitute. But things go south when Saru learns of Burnham's interference, confining her to her quarters and ordering the ship to jump as soon as they know the location of the battlecruiser anyways, forcing the tardigrade into essentially a coma. When the guards come in to torture them again, Tyler and Lorca team up and overwhelm their captors, leaving Mudd behind. Stealing a Klingon raider, they manage to contact the Discovery and escape to the ship. The Discovery jumps to safety, but at a cost. Rather than risk Ripper again, Stamets put himself in the spore chamber. The ship successfully made the jump, but at great risk to Stamets, who just barely survived the transit. The Ripper saga ends as Saru makes up for his transgressions, ordering Burnham to save the tardigrade, which she does by exposing it to spores and launching it into space, setting it free. Before the episode ends, we get a hint that what Stamets did might have caused some mirror universe shenanigans, but for more on that, we'll probably have to wait until later in the season. A few quick closing thoughts. Unfortunately for those of us that were hoping for a Section 31 reveal, it looks like that might not actually be the case, as the regulation Lorca cites to his commanders for taking on Burnham is not the same one founding that shadowy organization. It's just more of a standard wartime conscription rule. That doesn't rule out Section 31 completely, but I think the odds of it are kind of decreasing because that one part of it was a huge chunk of that theory. Another major highlight this episode was a couple of actually pretty cool Easter eggs to both Captain Pike and Captain Archer from Star Trek Enterprise, as well as Captain April, the original captain of the Enterprise, when Saru asks his computer to list the most distinguished captains in Starfleet history. Shortly thereafter, we got a nice little reference to Khan when Saru points out that eugenics experiments are forbidden, which can kind of only point in one direction. I also like the little insight we got into Saru and Burnham's relationship this episode, with Saru's underlying malice towards her, actually just jealousy towards Burnham for taking away his chance to be first officer under Captain Georgiou. I mean, it's kind of nice to get some background there and not just have Saru, kind of just being, I guess, moody. I know it's more than that, but that's the only word that really comes to my mind right now. It's just nice to see that get developed, and more than that to see that relationship start heading towards maybe getting mended. That's not to say this episode was 100% rosy, though. While I do like the idea of Harvey Mudd coming back, it makes sense given the timeline, and I do love Rainn Wilson and other things, this to me just still felt a little bit, I don't know, it just did not quite work for me. We will see him more this season according to, I think, Rainn Wilson, but so far it's Roger Carmel or no one in that role 1 episode in. Overall though, this was a really solid episode, maybe the most action-packed since the first and second ones of this season, but at the same time it gave us that action and it also gave us a little more backstory on some of our central characters, deepening relationships, and a very human episode that just felt very Star Trek. I'll give Choose Your Pain an 8.5 out of 10, so let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of the episode and what was your favorite moment, but that's going to do it for me here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like if you like what you saw, subscribe for more great content every single day, and consider turning on your notifications to be alerted every time we upload a new video. For even more content, check out our website at hybridnetworkyt.com, and if you love HN and want to take your support of the channel to the next level, feel free to support us on Patreon as we strive to bring you the best content possible. Signing off, this is CJ, and I'll see you next time.